The most dangerous predator you will ever meet isn't the loud, boastful tyrant. It's the quiet, self-deprecating victim sitting in the corner using your own pity as a masterclass in psychological capture.
Wow, yeah.
Welcome to The Debate. Today we are analyzing a highly specific, deeply destructive psychological profile, which is the covert narcissist. We are looking at a dynamic that operates entirely in the shadows.
It really does. It's invisible to almost everyone on the outside.
Exactly, but our central question today is one of clinical focus. When we attempt to decode covert narcissism, should our primary focus be on exposing the calculated predatory mechanics of their stealth manipulation? How they meticulously mask profound grandiosity beneath a vulnerable facade.
Right.
Or alternatively, should we prioritize the profound, reality-altering physiological and emotional devastation they inflict upon their victims? Precisely. From a behavioral profiling perspective, I argue that to truly dismantle this pathology, we must ruthlessly expose the predator's tactics. We have to dissect how they deliberately weaponize pity, passive aggression, and seductive vulnerability to gain absolute power over a target without ever raising their voice.
And I look at this from the complete opposite end of the spectrum, honestly. Understanding the mechanics of the predator is secondary to understanding the psychological crime scene they leave behind.
A crime scene. That's an intense way to put it.
But it is. If we focus all our energy on mapping out their tactical brilliance, we miss the invisible, catastrophic impact on the victim. We need to focus on the severed connection to reality, the somatic collapse, and the nervous system that is literally short-circuiting from the sheer terror of trying to survive in that environment.
Covert narcissism is not just a collection of toxic habits. It is a highly structured, predatory system of control masquerading as introversion, shyness, or even depression.
Masquerading being the operative word there.
Right. Unlike the overt, grandiose narcissist who demands the center of attention and tells you how great they are, the covert narcissist operates through what we call customized mimicry. They scan an empathetic target, locate their deepest emotional scars, and deliberately mirror those wounds to create a hook.
Yes, it's so insidious.
It really is. I look at this behavior and I have to be absolutely clear about what we are seeing. That is not depression. That is weaponized guilt. We look at their supposed humility, their constant self-deprecation, and we naturally mistake it for low self-esteem.
Which is exactly what they want you to think.
Yes, but it is a highly strategic presentation designed specifically to bypass the radar of an empathetic person. Beneath that quiet exterior is a staggering level of entitlement. They believe they are uniquely misunderstood, fundamentally superior to the masses, and they use their fragility to dominate.
Honestly, sitting in my office with these patients, it is just agonizing to hear that presentation described as a masterstroke of strategy.
Why is that?
Because I am the one sitting in a room with a person who no longer knows what is real. Focusing too much on the predator misses the devastating bodily reality of the victim. These individuals don't just endure bad behavior, you know?
Right, it goes deeper.
So much deeper. Their reality is slowly, systematically dismantled. The abuse is quite literally a hostile takeover of the victim's nervous system. We are talking about complex trauma.
Through the hot and cold behavior, right?
Exactly, through intermittent reinforcement. The unpredictable affection followed by sudden, icy withdrawal. The victim is neurologically conditioned to chase connection just to regulate their own heart rate. If we don't send to the victim's psychological devastation, we are completely missing the true horror of this pathology.
I hear the urgency in focusing on the victim, I really do. But let me explain why I trace that horror directly back to the predator's opening move. It all starts with the hook.
Okay.
And the hook is what I call seductive vulnerability. When you first meet a covert narcissist, say on a first date, they don't boast about their car or their job.
No, they don't. They play the victim.
Exactly. They share these incredibly curated, tragic stories. They tell you about being chronically misunderstood, or they give you a perfectly sanitized narrative about being abused by all their quote-unquote crazy past partners. They use self-deprecating comments to extract narcissistic supply.
Yeah, they really do.
They will say something like, I guess I'm just too damaged for anyone to really love. What are they doing? They are fishing. They are waiting for you to step in and say, no, you're wonderful. You just haven't met the right person.
See, this is exactly what trips victims up. And it's exactly why we need to focus on the target's psychology.
How so?
You have to understand who they hunt. Covert narcissists do not target emotionally bankrupt or weak people. They specifically target highly empathetic, emotionally intelligent problem solvers.
That makes sense. They need someone who will do the work.
Right. Think about the biology of empathy. We have a mirror neuron system in our brains. It's essentially the brain's Wi-Fi for emotional connection. When a highly empathetic person sees this displayed pain, this curated tragedy you just described, their mirror neurons light up.
So they literally feel the fake pain.
Yes, and their natural caretaking instincts are immediately activated. The narcissist is literally weaponizing the victim's best qualities against them: their compassion, their desire to heal, their capacity for deep connection.
Wow.
It creates an immediate artificial trauma bond because the victim feels uniquely chosen to save this deeply misunderstood soul. The victim isn't being foolish. Their deepest pro-social instincts are being hijacked.
Exactly. Hijacked. Let's look at the biology of that deception for a second. Think of a Venus flytrap.
Oh, that's a brilliant analogy.
Right? The plant doesn't just sit there hoping a bug flies in. It secretes a nectar that perfectly mimics the chemical signature of the insect's preferred food. The insect lands, completely driven by its natural instincts, thinking it's found sustenance.
And then the trap closes.
The moment it gets comfortable, the trap snaps shut. That is seductive vulnerability. The empath isn't just tripping up. They are being systematically hunted through their own compassion. The vulnerability is the sweet nectar. It's bait.
It really is.
And once the victim takes that bait, once they are completely invested in the illusion of this wounded soul, the dynamic shifts. The narcissist has secured their supply, but because they are covert, they can't use over-aggression to keep the victim in line.
Right, because that would break the fragile victim persona they've built.
Exactly. So they have to pivot to stealth punishment.
And this stealth punishment is where the true psychological unraveling begins.
Right. Because they need to dominate without leaving fingerprints. Let's talk about how this looks in reality. We're talking about the silent treatment, withholding praise, and micro-insults.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
Yes. If the victim does something to slightly threaten the narcissist's hidden grandiosity, maybe the victim gets a promotion or simply has a great day, the narcissist doesn't yell. They withdraw. They offer a blank, dead-eyed stare when the victim speaks.
Oh, that stare is chilling.
Or look at how they ruin joyful occasions. Let's say it's the night before the victim's 40th birthday. The covert narcissist will suddenly pick a vague, unresolvable fight where they will miraculously develop a terrible migraine.
So they can spend the actual birthday sulking in a dark bedroom.
Exactly. It forces the victim to spend their milestone day managing the narcissist's negative emotions. And even more darkly, when the victim gets physically sick, the covert narcissist suddenly becomes distant, irritable, and angry. They punish the victim for being vulnerable and temporarily taking the spotlight away.
Wait, look at how they use pity even inside that punishment, though. When the victim is lying in bed with the flu, the narcissist doesn't just withhold care. They act burdened by the inconvenience of your humanity.
Oh, sure. They make themselves the victim of your illness.
Yes, they sigh heavily while bringing you a glass of water. They make you feel incredibly guilty for having basic physical needs. And the emotional toll of this stealth punishment is catastrophic. You just mentioned the silent treatment.
Right.
Culturally, we tend to think of the silent treatment as just annoying or immature. It is not. From an attachment perspective, the silent treatment triggers primal abandonment terror in the brain. It actually registers in the same area of the brain as physical pain.
So the brain is processing that silence as an actual, literal physical threat.
Precisely. The victim lives in a constant state of hyperarousal. I want to get away from the cliché of walking on eggshells because it doesn't capture the severity.
What's a better way to describe it?
It is more like living in a house where the smoke detector goes off at random, deafeningly loud, but there is never a fire. Your body pumps out adrenaline and cortisol to survive a burning building, but you are just sitting in your living room trying to watch television with your partner.
Man, that sounds exhausting.
It is. That chronic stress attacks the body. We see victims developing severe somatic symptoms. We're talking about irritable bowel syndrome, high blood pressure, chronic nausea, and debilitating insomnia because their nervous system refuses to power down.
Because they're always anticipating the next silent treatment.
Exactly. And eventually, when the brain realizes it can neither fight this person nor flee the relationship, it pulls the ultimate emergency brake. Think of a possum playing dead. That is what we call dorsal vagal shutdown.
Right, the freeze response.
Yes. Your body literally powers down your metabolism, your digestion, your energy levels, just to survive the psychological trap. You become a ghost in your own life.
The physiological collapse is undeniably brutal. I mean, it's terrifying. But to reverse that collapse, we have to expose the exact mechanism of reality distortion that keeps them trapped.
Okay, fair enough.
The ultimate goal of the covert narcissist isn't just to punish. It's to completely dismantle the victim's grip on reality so that leaving becomes psychologically impossible. And they don't just do this emotionally. They manage the practical, day-to-day life without ever taking responsibility, which brings me to one of their most effective tools, weaponized incompetence.
Ah, the daily chores.
Exactly. The narcissist will deliberately forget to pay a crucial bill, or they will do the laundry so poorly, shrinking your favorite clothes, leaving things damp, that the burden is entirely shifted back onto the victim.
And it's so crazy-making.
It is, and when you confront them, what happens? They don't argue back. They offer an insincere, hyperdramatic, self-pitying apology. They say, I guess I'm just a stupid failure. I can't do anything right. I don't know why you even stay with me.
Oh, I've heard that exact phrase so many times.
Dr. George K. Simon identifies this perfectly as a form of rationalization and evasion. The aggressor downplays the harmful behavior, flips the script, and suddenly the victim is comforting the abuser for failing to do a basic household chore.
Which is the very definition of covert gaslighting. When the victim tries to address a blatant failure or a passive-aggressive insult, the covert narcissist shifts the blame seamlessly.
Right. It's never their fault.
Never. They accuse the victim of being too sensitive, or they say, "You're always criticizing me. Nothing I do is ever enough." This is where the cognitive dissonance sets in.
Because the victim is seeing two different people.
Exactly. The victim is forced to hold two deeply conflicting realities in their mind. The charming, vulnerable person they thought they met on that first date, and the cold, resentful person who is currently punishing them.
And the brain struggles to reconcile that.
It can't, because the abuse is so subtle and so wrapped in plausible deniability. The victim ends up apologizing for the narcissist's cruelty. They become completely cut off from their own intuition. I have sat with patients, highly educated, brilliant people, who literally cannot trust their own memory of a conversation that happened 10 minutes ago.
Because the reality distortion is just that strong.
Yes, because the covert narcissist has so thoroughly distorted their sense of reality.
Well, I hear you on the devastation, but I have to push back on the intentionality here. I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that the narcissist doesn't know what they're doing.
You think it's all completely conscious?
Yes. Some clinicians argue that this gaslighting, this shifting of blame, is just a subconscious defense mechanism to protect a fragile ego. I just don't buy that. When they stonewall you, when they stare blankly as you cry, and then offer a perfectly crafted non-apology, like, I'm sorry you feel that way, isn't there a chilling level of conscious intent there?
I mean, it certainly feels that way to the victim.
It is a highly conscious deployment of plausible deniability. They know exactly how to push the victim right to the edge of a reaction. They wait for the victim to finally snap from the sheer frustration, and then the covert narcissist sits back, perfectly calm, and says, look how abusive and crazy you are.
The reactive abuse?
Exactly. They manufacture a scenario that makes them look like the victim to the outside world. They are utilizing covert triangulation and smear campaigns long before the relationship ever officially ends.
The manipulation is staggeringly effective. I agree, but I want to caution against getting completely lost in the weeds of whether every single sigh or forgotten chore is part of a conscious master plan.
Why? Doesn't the intent matter?
Whether it is a calculated chest move or a reflexive defense mechanism to protect their ego, the outcome for the victim is identical. The danger of focusing solely on the predator's genius is that it can make the victim feel even more powerless, like they are fighting an omnipotent supervillain.
I see what you mean.
We have to demystify why the victim stays, and that comes down to the psychological mechanics of the trauma bond.
So you're saying the intent matters less than the chemical hook?
Exactly. The reason the victim stays isn't just because the narcissist is a brilliant liar. It's because the victim is biologically addicted to the intermittent reinforcement. Think of a slot machine, the ultimate gambling trap.
Right. If a slot machine never paid out, you would stop pulling the lever. But the narcissist occasionally drops the cold mask and gives a breadcrumb of that original love-bombing warmth.
They have one good afternoon where they are attentive and sweet.
And that resets the whole cycle.
It does. That single breadcrumb floods the victim's brain with dopamine, providing temporary, intense relief from the agonizing cortisol spikes of the silent treatment. The victim isn't weak. They are chemically trauma bonded to their abuser.
But breaking that chemical bond requires a radical confrontation with the truth about the predator. If the victim continues to view the covert narcissist through the lens of empathy, if they keep thinking they act this way because they had a hard childhood or they're just insecure and need more of my patience, that bond will never ever break.
That is very true. Empathy becomes a trap.
It does. The victim has to see the architecture of the abuse. They have to recognize that the hypersensitivity to criticism isn't anxiety. It is a demand for absolute compliance. They must see that the chronic envy, the way the narcissist subtly demeans the victim's accomplishments or sabotages their joy, is a calculated strategy to keep the victim small.
Right, seeing it for what it really is.
By decoding the stealth tactics, the exact way they use a sigh, a specific glance, or weaponized withdrawal to dominate the temperature of a room, we strip the narcissist of their camouflage. We expose the covert narcissist for exactly what they are, an emotional parasite utilizing psychological warfare.
I agree that the camouflage must be stripped away, absolutely. But the true exit strategy happens when the victim turns the magnifying glass away from the narcissist and back onto themselves.
Focusing inward?
Yes. By recognizing the physical and emotional symptoms within their own body, the victim can finally locate the door. You break the bond by realizing that your chronic exhaustion, your sudden anxiety, your autoimmune flare-ups, and the fact that you are endlessly apologizing are not personal failures.
They're symptoms.
They are your body's alarm bells. The true horror of covert narcissism lies in its invisibility to the outside world. The narcissist might be a beloved doctor, a dedicated charity volunteer, or just the quiet, nice guy next door. The victim's reality is invalidated not just by the abuser, but often by society and their own friends.
Which makes it so incredibly isolating.
So isolating. So the healing begins when it becomes about recognizing that living with a faulty smoke detector is not love. It is a trauma response to coercive control.
It seems we are looking at the exact same truth from two vital angles. Whether you view it through the lens of the predator's calculated mechanics or the victim's physiological collapse, the conclusion is inescapable. Covert narcissists are arguably far more dangerous than overt narcissists.
Oh, without a doubt.
An overt narcissist shows you who they are. They yell, they demand, they boast. You can see the threat coming from a mile away. But the covert narcissist hides in plain sight. They disguise their pathology as altruism, as shyness, or as fragility. They infiltrate your life through your own compassion, bypassing your defenses completely.
They do. They are the invisible intruder. And for anyone listening, this is why understanding these dark psychological patterns is so vital. It validates an experience that is inherently designed to make you feel like you are losing your mind.
Absolutely.
The source material we've explored today holds so much more for those seeking to break these trauma bonds. There are pathways back to reality looking at therapies like somatic experiencing or the Safe and Sound protocol, which essentially helps retune the nervous system's frequencies.
Getting them out of that freeze state.
Exactly. Bringing the body out of that possum-like dorsal vagal shutdown and back into a state where you can actually feel safe in your own skin again.
Well, if you take away anything from our discussion today, let it be this. Pay close attention to the quiet ones who constantly cast themselves as the victim while somehow leaving everyone around them drained, confused, and feeling at fault.
Pay very close attention.
Constantly apologizing for things you didn't do, living in a state of hypervigilance, feeling your body break down, and questioning your own sanity over a conversation you just had. You might just be dealing with a covert narcissist.
Yeah.
The most dangerous predator you will ever meet isn't the loud, boastful tyrant. It's the quiet, self-deprecating victim sitting in the corner, using your own pity as the cage,